Welcome to the Salty Journals Podcast. Salty Journals is a podcast for anyone who loves having time in, on, or under the water. Please don't forget to subscribe and share the show if you enjoy it. So let's get into this. So welcome to episode 5 of the Salty Journals Podcast. Today, we've got an interview with Wallace J. Nichols. Wallace spent nearly 2 decades as a marine biologist, studying, of all things, sea turtles and working with fishermen in Baja, California, Mexico, to protect the turtles from poachers. In the past few years, he's turned a new page. So he delves into the neuroscience and human behavior of what he calls blue mind. I know it coins a phrase, blue mind. I'm a bit of a skeptic when people start to put terms like this into what is a very normal thing like the water. But, you know, in amongst these blue mind summits, the regular book clubs he hosts, the several TED Talks, what he does do is create a bit of a movement and a bit of momentum in having a bit of think about how things are occurring to you, how you're perceiving the world, and what impact the water can have on that. So on this episode, we have a chat about what blue mind is, how we can experience blue mind even if we aren't lucky enough to be on or near the water, and the difference the blue mind can make to every day. I really enjoyed the book and thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Wallace. I think it's really important to spend some time having a bit of a contemplation on what the water means to you and what kind of impact it has to you. And sure, it can all come across as kind of touchy-feely, hoodoo, guru, BS, but it's pretty hard to deny when you're out in the ocean having a good time, the impact it can have on you. So join me as we chat to Wallace on the show. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for joining the podcast with Salty Journals. Really do appreciate your time. And I think there'll be some really interesting content in here for the listeners. I guess a good place to start is how you got started with the book. So, you know, what brought this idea around and why did you write the book?
Yeah, I'm a marine biologist by training and by career, and became a marine biologist because needed to find a career that kept me connected to the water. And always noticed, you know, some element of that in all of my peers and my colleagues, that they were doing this job because they were pulled to the water. And found in my own work that understanding human behavior was, I studied sea turtles for a long time, and sea turtle biology and conservation, and understanding turtles is important, but understanding human behavior was just as important to figuring out the problems that were facing the turtles and the ocean. And so it's kind of that combination of the two. Like why am I so pulled to the water? So much so that I've built my whole life around it. And I'm not the only one, certainly. And what about human behavior could be useful to fixing what's broken? And I kind of went looking for a book about that. I thought there's got to be a great book about our brain on water, our brain on the ocean. Because there were books about our brain on music, and our brain on anger, and brain on happiness, and our brain's ability to change itself, and all kinds of great topics, really great, accessible, neuroscience-based books. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a book about the human brain, the most complex thing known in the universe, and water, the single most important feature of our planet. So not too niche-y when you put them together, pretty major intersection of concepts, nothing. And so I tried to get some smart people to write it so that I could read it. And I pitched it to neuroscientists and psychologists, pitched it to a guy named Oliver Sacks, who had written extensively about neuroscience, neurology, brilliant intellectual man. lifelong water lover and music lover. He wrote a book called Musicophilia, about your brain on music. And I thought, man, my dream is for Oliver to write this book that I imagine reading. He bangs it out. It's a bestseller. I get to read it. Maybe he mentions my name in the acknowledgments, like, hey, Jay, thanks for the great idea. And everybody's happy. I get to put the book into practice. And when I pitched it to him, he said, this is really kind of the point of the story. He said, it's a fine idea. You do it. And so simultaneously, my dream of him writing this book exploded and dissolved and disappeared. And the responsibility to do it myself, because of the respect I had for him and his opinion and his intellect, the only answer to him saying, you do it, was, yes, sir. I'll be back in 5 years. And it took me 5 years. And I came back with a book and gave him a signed copy, a hardcover, first edition. Soon after that, he passed away. So I was glad to be able to complete the command that he suggested and deliver the book. And so that was 2014. And since then, it's been quite an interesting journey sharing this concept, Blue Mind, with all the usual suspects, surfers and marine biologists and divers, but also people who work in healthcare, people who work in prisons, people who work in hospice, teachers and parents, whole range, people who work in water quality, water management, people who work in the boating industry, in the pool industry. So I went from turtle guy, sea turtle researcher, to running around trying to explain myself, I guess, to people and be helpful, I guess, is the goal. I think the book filled the spot on the shelf that was empty. And I encourage anybody who wants to take a shot at the same topic to write a better book and join the movement, join the groundswell.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's a really, really interesting creation story, and great emphasis to build a book behind it as well, for sure. So for those who might not be familiar with the book or haven't read the book, can you explain what the concept of the Blue Mind is? The focus of the book.
Yeah, so the best way to understand Blue Mind is to start with Red Mind, which is kind of the opposite. And most people are really familiar with Red Mind right now in the world. We have some of the highest levels of anxiety and stress, as long as psychologists have been recording it. I know in the US, the American Psychological Association puts out a report called Stress in America. And last year was the highest recorded level of stress. I'm sure this year we'll beat it, needless to say. So we should be the most comfortable, relaxed group of humans ever, given how convenient everything is. I'm talking to you over a screen on my laptop as if you're sitting at the kitchen table. And I turn a knob over there and water comes out that I can drink. And I open a door over there and there's food to eat. And I go over there and there's a bed and there's a toilet and every single book ever written, every song ever recorded at my fingertips. So life should be good and relaxed and happy, but we're the most stressed out we've ever been. And that's Red Mind. It's a useful mode. It gets things done. It gets us to the finish line. It put people on the moon. It's certainly part of the striving and thriving aspects of what makes us, good at what we do. But if it's all you have, you will burn out, guaranteed, 100%. And then that's called gray mind, burnout. Break down, burn out, and just kind of be in ashes, the ashes that are left after the fire of red mind. And so back to your original question, what's blue mind? Blue mind is the antidote. Blue mind is the logging out, backing off, stepping away, moving away from all of the information overload, the commitments, the distractions, and disconnecting moving away from the screens, moving generally away from crowds of people, get out of the car. And you can do a lot of things to get your blue mind on. You can listen to music, you can participate in artworks. But the best way to get your blue mind on is water. And in all of its forms. So the moment you step up, the moment you begin moving towards water, you start to slip into blue mind. You're anticipating it. If you're sitting there right where you are right now, and I say, I don't know how far you are from the water, but if I say in 10 minutes, we're going to be in the water, you start feeling it before you even get out of that chair and take that headset off. You start getting your stoke going, and you're slipping out of red mind into blue mind. And it just builds until you're submerged. You're on the water. And what it really is first and foremost, it's a peeling away of all the stuff that makes red mind. So blue mind is as much about what we take away as what it gives us. So the water precludes technology generally. So your iPhone doesn't like to be underwater so much. Your laptop certainly doesn't do well on a surfboard. You can try it. You can try to hold that laptop while you're surfing. Good luck. Scuba diving, any kind of diving or paddling, best to not bring your iMac or any other big desktop computer. Or your widescreen high-def television doesn't do well on a kayak. So you leave all your screens behind. You start to leave people behind. You leave traffic behind. You leave your to-do list behind. The sound, auditorily, visually, things become more simple. And then somatically, your body, if you slip into the water and are floating, you get back all that bandwidth too. So the parts of your brain that process vision, the visual information, the auditory information, and the somatic input, that you're doing a lot of work right now just sitting there, listening and talking. And then we have the visual component. So you take all that away, you get tons of bandwidth back, and you get to relax in a different way. That water in all of its forms, as well as I would say virtual water. So art, recordings, music, film, those are all virtual forms of water, can help us as well. And so that's blue mind. That's this different state of mind, different mode, where we're more creative, we're connected to ourselves, to each other, and to the planet we call home. When we're relaxed, we're healthier. We have different kinds of insights, different kind of thinking. Red mind thinking is really useful. Blue mind thinking is also very useful. It's a place where you can creatively solve problems and work stuff out. There's a quality of conversation that outdoors by the water that's really different in a room, particularly in a crowded room. When you're yelling over all the other noises or something, it's just a different conversation. There's a synchrony or a cadence or an entrainment that happens when you're swimming or paddling or walking on a beach together that allows for that to happen. And so my book describes all of that from all the sensory perspectives, and goes through the red mind, the gray mind, and the blue mind, and then talks about what do we do with it. So that's interesting. What do we do with it? How do we put it? How do we apply it to society? And there's lots of cool ways to do that. That's really what blue mind's all about.
Yeah, fantastic. No, I definitely just thinking about how much I want to share here. I was a lot of trouble when I was younger, right? And then I ended up pretty kind of lost, and then took up kite surfing. And I remember those initial days of just being out in the water and just getting that release like off my shoulders, and kind of thinking, how is this even legal? But the overall sort of calming just nature of water was just, it was there from the start. And you've explained a bit about how it makes us calm down. I mean, do you think that's, is that related to being back in the womb? I mean, is it that kind of concept there? Is it from right back in our origins, or where does this kind of ground swelling come from?
So we're certainly, we're mostly made of water. We're at birth over 70% water and declined slowly through life. We all spent 9.21 months underwater in our own private ocean called Mom. And it was warm and salty and dark and pretty great. And so, I don't necessarily think it's just a desire to get back in the womb, but certainly there's a peacefulness to it that harkens back to some subconscious memory of that being comfortable. And your entire nervous system, for the most part, developed underwater. Your brain is mostly water. Your brain is bathed in water, and while your brain was developing, you were living in a body of water. So, not surprisingly, when you get appropriately and purposefully into water. So it's very different if somebody throws you off a bridge into the water, or the water floods your basement, or, something like a tsunami or something tragically hits. That's not blue mind. That's certainly red mind. It isn't just all water all the time. It's the water you want to be in the way you want to be there. Even when you're over your head, in some big water, but you want to be there, you're challenging yourself. That's exhilarating. And even if you wipe out and go under and pop up, that's still wrapped in the blue mind experience. It's often punctuated by moments of red mind. But the difference is it's not chronic, steady, hammering red mind with no breaks, which is what burns us out. And it sounds like you know burnout, gray mind. You described how your podcast was born from a desire to bring some positivity to the conversation about water and the ocean and life. So, those negative fight or flight, fear kind of stories, those are more red mind. And I would say what the environmental movement has gotten wrong is stressing out an already stressed out group of people and thinking they're going to get a positive response out of that. We're all stressed by the world. And if you show up with another layer of heavy stress and expect you're going to get a creative, collaborative response, hard, really hard. So you got to bring some. You can't avoid the bad news, but you can't just hammer people with relentless negativity or bad news all the time. It does burn us out. Burnout's no good. I think you can learn some things from experiencing it, but as a functional mode, it's malfunctioning and not useful. It may have a lesson attached to it once, but you really don't want to toggle back and forth between red and gray mind. That's not a good existence. So pretty widespread burnout is.
Yeah. Well, some great concepts there, and certainly like to head back to a couple of them. But I think just picking up on the environmental movement as an example, how do you hope, or what are some of the kind of influences or lessons that can be taken from the book that might help people to exhibit or live in a blue mind state more often? Is there things that people can be doing to think that way, to do that?
Yeah, I think when we tell the story of what a healthy ocean or lake or river is good for, we generally focus on the ecological and the economic benefits, and sometimes the educational benefits. But we leave out the emotional health benefits almost entirely. So if you look at most ocean organizations or ocean agencies and look at their preamble to their reports, or just read the whole report if you have the time, and just look for the word emotional health, the phrase emotional health, look for the word neuroscience, look for the word psychology, look for the word brain, look for the word behavior, look for the word calm or contentment. Go a little further, look for the word grief, look for the word empathy and compassion. those are all scientific realms of research. The science of empathy is a science. It's neurophysiology and neurochemistry. And it's pretty cool. But the ocean conservation groups haven't quite gotten around to employing that research. So we leave out the fourth E. I call it the fourth E. It's emotion, the science of emotion, or emotional health. And so by leaving that out, we generally undervalue a healthy ocean by at least 25%, because we leave out all those benefits. So we talk about food and jobs and climate, very important, or weather. We talk about biodiversity, incredibly important, our fisheries, all the maritime industries. But we leave out ideas like romance and calmness and how creativity. And I know lots of artists and musicians who would say, I get my best ideas when I'm on the water or near the water. I know entrepreneurs who say the same thing, and they have good ideas that make the world better. I know people who treat their anxiety and their post-traumatic stress with surfing or paddling or swimming, and it keeps them alive. All of that has value. It has real world dollars and cents value. And when we leave it out quantitatively and qualitatively, we undervalue the ocean. And when we undervalue anybody or anything, bad things happen every time. And so really it's about fixing the value equation, fixing our story. Our story is pretty stuck in the 80s, frankly. Most ocean orgs have basically a vintage 1980 story going. They haven't updated it with the latest neuroscience blue mind research, which I think would accelerate their mission. And so the message to conservation groups and environmental groups is add blue mind science, add somebody to your staff who understands neuropsychology or therapy, and it will accelerate your mission. You'll get more done. You'll build a bigger movement. You'll have more members. People will resonate with your message more. You'll be more successful, which is all of our goal, to fix the things that are broken. So, I worked with sea turtles for a long time, and the population of sea turtles called the black sea turtle in Mexico that was considered beyond endangered, critically endangered, too late. It was borderline extinct. Functionally, ecologically, economically extinct, all but just completely extinct. And everybody had written it off. And I started working with the turtle hunters themselves. And everybody said, you can't work with them. They're the enemies of nature. They're bad men. And I approached them with curiosity and respect and empathy and compassion, and asked them humbly how they would save the black turtle from extinction. And they had some pretty good ideas. And so we implemented them. Now, 30 years later, the black turtle has been downlisted, meaning it's being taken lower and lower on the endangered species list because the population keeps going up. It's an emerging success story. And we were told not to waste our time, but we took a blue mind approach, I would say. More open-minded, creative, compassionate approach. Took 30 years. So it wasn't quick. It wasn't a 2-year quick grant thing that a lot of people like to work like that these days, a quick campaign and then move to the next thing. Didn't cost much. Our budget was puny. And we were successful. And I think the same thing's happening with the blue. We're building kind of a blue mind groundswell with a tiny budget, with a lot of heart, with great science. With the turtles, we had world-class science. And really just no BS, no spin, not a lot of flash, just kind of, doing something that's non-redundant, pretty unique. But it can be used by everybody. So whether you're in healthcare and in the environmental conservation world, whether you're in water sports, recreation, travel, if you're an educator or a parent, you'll find Blue Mind to be pretty useful. And that's our goal, is to kind of sprinkle it around with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. And so for people looking to explore Blue Mind, obviously we will, if they haven't read your book, then they definitely should, and watch your TED Talk. Is there any other resources? Have you got sort of a website repository of information, anything else you would point people to?
Yeah, I hang everything, I guess you would say it's my gym locker or closet. If you go to patreon.com/bluemind, you'll find a lot of content there. We do an online book club every year. We spend 10 weeks reading Blue Mind together every night online. And we put that there. I post every chapter of the book. So if you don't have the book and you don't feel like buying it because you don't want a chance that you might not like it, go to my Patreon site and you'll find every chapter posted there. We've got if you're not into reading nonfiction 300-page books with a lot of science, you can go to the videos. We have a 12-part video series, an educator's series. You can watch that. Got a handful of other podcasts that I've done in different realms, from podcasts with the people in the float spa world and podcasts with people in the wastewater management world. And some people who work more in mindfulness and health. And so a whole range of topics. You might find a free diving podcast. So you might find something interesting there. And there's, I think, 7 TED Talks. So it's all on my Patreon site. If you're into that kind of content, there's tons of cool stuff there. But I'll just say, if you're looking for something in particular and you're not finding it, just drop me a note. You probably have done it. It probably exists, and I'll direct you in the right direction. So don't give up. And probably more importantly, if you're looking for something that you think should exist and it doesn't, let's do it. If you're like, hey man, there needs to be a Blue Mind mural in Sydney, Australia, or in LA or wherever, yeah, call me. I'll love to help with that. I think it'd be really fun. I love creative collaborations. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. No, thank you for that. And I guess for me, and I think you are as well. I'm very fortunate to be able to walk across a couple of roads and dip into the water. Is there, for people where they're not able to do that, particularly at a time like this with the virus going on, is there other tips and techniques that would help with establishing a Blue Mind and moving into that space?
Yeah, so I'm biased towards wild water, so lakes and rivers and oceans and bays and creeks and ponds. I prefer the wild, free water. But sometimes you can't get to it. It might be frozen. You might be in lockdown. You may be restricted for another reason. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's an injury. And so the 2 other categories of water would be domestic water. So a pool, a spa, a tub, a shower, a fountain, and maybe it's an urban fountain, or you have a fountain in your yard. And they make these little small desk fountains. You can put them on your table. They're pretty neat. It's not meant to be the ocean, so don't compare it to the ocean. I see even wave parks are domestic water, large, maybe one of the largest domestic waters available. And then the third category, so you've got wild and domestic, and then the third category is virtual. And sometimes you're not going to get in the bath. You're going to maybe be at a screen or be with an artwork of some sort, whether it's a sculpture or a sculpture related to the ocean, or an animal. Could be a painting or a photograph. There's so many beautiful water photographs these days. When I was growing up, there's nothing. I mean, there's just some amazing work being done. It's just so captivating. You are lucky enough to own a piece of artwork that's on your wall. The walls look pretty bare, as do mine, but that. Okay, go get it. All right, you win. Okay, there you go. Where's your nail? You need to nail that thing to the wall.
Not ideal for the podcast, but yeah, there is a photo there. But yeah, there is obviously I suppose the impact of using something to focus the mind and
Yeah,
draw yourself into
sound
it.
is really good.
Yeah.
If you know you're not going to be able to get to your water for a while, record it. And you probably have a really good recording device in your pocket that does a pretty good job quality wise. Just hit record on the voice memo and record 15 minutes of the sound of your ocean. And if you know you're going to be far away from it, traveling or something, and then just put that on loop and listen to it when you're trying to relax. And if it's your water, it'll just, your home water. And it could be a river or a creek. My preference is for the art. I'm not a great photographer or videographer, but I find that the photographs that in the video that you make are the ones that are have the most emotional valence. I mean, I love good art, and I love looking at masters and masterful photography. I'm wearing an Aaron Chang hat right now. His photography is wonderful.
Yeah, next level.
But it's the photographs that you take sometimes that might just be cruddy little quick snapshots, maybe with your kids or your friends on a good day. Those are the ones with the biggest emotional impact. So pull those up. Have a little collection of go-to water photos that just make you super happy and really chill. The videos, the recordings, the sounds. So you can ride out. I think you can ride out a global pandemic with domestic and virtual water without going completely crazy, and then it will really remind you how important the wild water is, how therapeutic and medicinal it is to your well-being. And then hopefully we come out of this and we never, ever, ever take it for granted again. We never, ever let it get messed up, and we all become water warriors in a new way because of that deepened appreciation for what it gives us. You really learn that. I gave a talk at a conference for people who manage prisons, and really learned this idea of how would you depict the ocean to someone who's incarcerated in a way that made any sense. But the idea of really valuing something that you don't have because it's locked away from you for whatever reason. It's humbling, and it's a really good reminder. So maybe that's part of what we're doing right now, is just getting that bold underlying appreciation for the water, that our home water we love. Like that, the next time, I know a lot of people aren't getting in the water at all right now, and outside their bathrooms. And I know the next time they get in, whenever it is, weeks or months from now, it's going to be very sweet, euphoric, spiritual even. There may even be tears, like a reunion, with someone you really missed. And, own that. Just, I think that's part of what we're going through. If you've got salt in your veins, the way I think most of the people listening to your podcast and who are on your podcast do, it's a learning experience. And then, and some people are pretty fortunate. They have water in their backyard, and in any kind of quarantine situation, they still have access. They can walk there. What we're seeing in California, people getting tickets for stand-up paddleboarding and such, and so that it's getting a little heavy, especially for people who've been using the ocean to get through every day. It literally is their medicine, and biologically, physiologically, neurochemically, it is what gives them their dopamine and what keeps them sober. And it's being taken away right now. They need something else. And the bathtub, a nice bath is great, but you really got to bring some really great soap or something. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Just pouring a bag of salt in there at the moment might be the way to go.
Or a lot of bubbles. I think a lot of bubbles and a rubber duck. That's it. Yeah.
Maybe a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly.
So for those, if we're fortunate enough to be able to go and experience the water, or we can run a bath, or go through the digital means to get some blue mind going. How do we take that away and take that with us to the next phone call, the next chore we've got to do in the house, the next part of our day? How do we roll that into the next part?
Yeah, I think there's an element of mindfulness practice that comes with it, and you can call it whatever you want. You just calm your mind. If you don't like the word mindfulness or meditation, fine. Don't say those words. Just call it calmness or focus or relaxation. But not surprisingly, a lot of people who teach mindfulness will use aquatic imagery, especially lakes, rivers, oceans, to get people into that space, to close their eyes and imagine waves, imagine a river. It's very common. In fact, you go to the bookstore and you look up positive psychology or mindfulness books, most of them have water on the cover. Most of them don't mention water in the text. They just put water on the cover because it's the right image. And so there's always been this connection between mindfulness and water. I think we're at a point where Western medicine and Western science is now getting it. And we're starting to see therapists and doctors literally prescribing what I would call it a blue scription, mandating that their patients spend more time near, in, on, and underwater as part of their healing regime. They may supplement it with more traditional, more familiar, or pharmaceutical means, but it's really clear we're starting to see around the world health professionals using Blue Mind, literally prescribing Blue Mind to their patients with great results. And the clinical research is strong. So the great thing about a blue scription is you can self-prescribe it, and you're not going to get into any trouble. You can write yourself 5 blue scriptions a week, and there are no side effects, other than you may lose your job if all you do is surf or dive. But you can't overdose, or you can't overdo it from a chemical medical perspective. So self-prescribing a blue scription is a really good idea. And I have a form that I fill out. It's a blue scription form, and I'll check the boxes and write a little note and ask people to stick it to the refrigerator just as a reminder to take a bath if you're stressed, or get in the water, get to the beach, go for a swim. Instead of watching a really scary Netflix series, put on just some soft water sound and chill, rather than getting your red mind on by like some murder mystery that freaks you out even more. Just relax, and we didn't really talk about it yet, but one of the benefits of Blue Mind is better sleep. You've probably had a day where it was just an epic day on the water, and your head hits the pillow and you're just gone, and it's just like deep, long, good sleep. And I've had that experience working with veterans who have been carrying some post-traumatic stress and haven't slept for years, literally. And they get on the water for a day surfing, learn to surf, so exhausted physically and mentally and emotionally. Hit the hotel room, hit the pillow, and it's like they're out 8 hours of sleep. And they wake up and say, I haven't slept for 8 hours in literally years. And that's another benefit of the water. It helps us sleep.
Yeah, I'll have to dig out. I remember seeing a show a while ago where there was a voluntary group taking veterans out to teach them surfing, and there was just extensive benefits on it. I'll have to dig it out and link it on the show notes. But maybe we could talk a bit more about the benefits of Blue Mind. I was thinking them and thinking about my sleep and things, but then we went off somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, if you don't mind sharing a few more of the benefits, that'd be good.
Yeah, so there are all the physical benefits of exercise, and when you exercise in the water, those benefits are multiplied. There's the somatic pressure of being in the water that pushes more blood to your heart, makes your heart work more. So that gives you a better workout. You can stretch more, and you can do things in the water that you wouldn't probably try on land. So you can just more of a you can literally throw your arms and your legs all over the place in the water, and you wouldn't be able to do that in the air. Some people maybe like people in Cirque du Soleil or something, but you can do kind of water acrobatics and just range of motion stuff. The chance of injury in the water is so much lower. You don't fall down if you're exercising in the water. So it's the combination of pressure, resistance, and lower incident of injury that make water exercise just better. But then you add in the emotional benefits, and it's just more relaxing to exercise in the water. There's a pro-social aspect to it. You're in the water with a bunch of people. It's great. There's a camaraderie to it that you don't really see, pushing weights around in a gym as much. Nothing against working out in a gym, but you go into a gymnasium and there's screens everywhere with 24-hour news cycle. It's stressing you out if you look at it, distracting you mentally. When you work out in the water, no screens, ideally, hopefully. The nice sound of the water, it feels good and helps you mentally relax while you're working, stressing your body. Much better than mentally stressing yourself while you're physically stressing your body. So there's all those benefits, but it goes way beyond that. It's the creativity benefits. So, in that blue mind state, you move into a different mode, which lends itself to the creative process much more. You're more likely to come up with a novel insight or a new connection, a poetic insight or a new song even. I talk to artists and musicians and writers, and they say by the water, sometimes just feels like the song falls out of the sky into their brain, and it's like, there it is. They're not even sure where it came from. It didn't come from the sky. It came from themselves. It came out of their subconscious. But the water facilitates that. So not surprisingly, there's lots of water metaphors across all spiritual traditions. So you're trying to achieve some sort of transcendence or transcendent experience that opens you up. Water is always good to involve in that. And then I think it's not something people discuss much, but given the current circumstances globally with the pandemic, the idea of grief. And we're all grieving right now, whether we realize it or not. Our plans that we had are changed. Things that we thought were coming up that were really great, important even, have gone away, not to mention perhaps loss of life and economic challenges. And we grieve all of that. And the best place I know to grieve is near the water or in the water or under the water. And nothing better than diving under the water and just screaming, everything. Or just crying, at the beach. It's pretty good place to do it. It's a pretty good place to memorialize those we've lost because it puts us all together in that blue mind place and opens us up to a different mood, really, a different mode. And that's just a partial list of the emotional health benefits from romance to grief to creativity to relaxation. Just the flip side of that, if the ocean is full of crap, it all goes away. If you go to the ocean to feel good and it makes you mad or disgusted, you're not going to get your blue mind on. You're going to get more red mind, and then you might just get burnt out on the whole thing. After maybe doing beach cleanups over and over and just finally just tiring of it. So yet another argument to keep our oceans healthy and clean for the ecological and economic benefits, but all the massive emotional health benefits. Really, if you start thinking about it in your own life, they really stack up. And then you start thinking about it in your small circle, the stack gets bigger. And then you broaden it out to your community alone, just where you live, all the people who benefit so much, and creativity and managing their anxiety and their addictions, and all the romantic moments. And it's pretty amazing when you think about how much a healthy river or a healthy lake or a healthy ocean bay gives us from an emotional health perspective. And our goal is to have conversations like this with you, so that people hear about this and go, wow, it's so obvious, yet I never thought about it that way. It's usually what happens. Like, it's so damn obvious, but yet I never really thought of my own life that way, connected the dots. And those are the great aha moments. And then you can't go back. Like once we've kicked the blue mind door open for people, as hopefully we've just done, you can't close it. You can't unsee your blue mind. It's permanently part of your language and your understanding of yourself. And hopefully it's something you want to share with the people around you so they understand it and you can put it into good practice.
Yeah, fantastic. No, really does capture the blue mind. And just on the benefits side, as a personal story, I remember somebody telling me, just as I started learning how to free dive, you'll find your sleep really well. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe. Got home that night, just out, just gone again. And it just has such a major impact, even on a small scale like that. But I think, like you say, capturing it on a community, or even a global scale, dare I say it, is really important to make sure that's front of mind and in the vernacular, in the consciousness. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and that's really our goal, is to make blue mind common knowledge, so that it isn't something you learn in your 30s, or something you just know it and you don't know why you know it. You understand if you're having a bad day and you're a teenager, the best thing you can do is get your butt in the water. You understand that if you're having a creative block and you're a professional, whatever, creative person, understand that you get to the water and it'll help you work through that creative block. You understand that if there's somebody you really are fond of and you want to take your conversation to another level, go to the water and hang out there. We would like that to be common knowledge for not just lucky people, but 7.8 billion people who understand blue mind, have access to it in one shape or form, and practice it, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever they can. Kind of a big, audacious goal, but I think we're about 1/8 of the way there. 1 billion out of 8 billion, not bad.
It's a good number. Absolutely, it is a good number for sure. And hopefully people will like and share this, and share the other sources that you've mentioned earlier on the show as well, and have a look through and get familiar with the content.
Yeah, and I'll challenge anybody who's got some creativity in their makeup to take these ideas and expand them. Do fun, cool things to explain blue mind to your community, through your art, through your lens, through your podcast, through your painting and photography and design and music. I just found a new song today, literally. Several songs that have the title Blue Mind. It's a great song by Alexi Murdoch, Scottish singer that you love. You know him? Do you know Alexi? He's
no, not yet.
Beautiful. You will. He's got a great song called Blue Mind. I would link that to the resources. And there's a couple other songs inspired by Blue Mind that are called Blue Mind. But if you're a musician, turn it into a song, turn it into lyrics, because not everybody's going to read a sloggy book full of science. Some people are going to understand blue mind through music, and some through film, and some through podcasts, and maybe cartoons or something. I don't know. You can do all of it. It's kind of the goal.
Excellent. No, I really appreciate you taking the time to share it with us and share some of the the key learnings from the book and how we can take advantage of the water and what the key benefits are and how we can bring that into our lives a bit more. So thank you.
Yeah, totally my pleasure. And thanks for inviting me to hang out, chat.
Yeah, no. Thank you for making the time. Really, honestly, yeah. Is there anything anything else you want to cover off? Anything we didn't mention that we should loop back into at some point?
I think we pretty well covered it. And I think if people are interested in tracking Blue Mind on social media, we keep it really simple. #BlueMind. So feel free to use that to connect with other people who are part of this conversation, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or wherever. Just throw that hashtag around a little bit and click on it, and you'll see all kinds of cool stuff that people are doing. Whether it's people who have discovered the book or just that love the concept and are integrating it in their work in different ways. Really is an open source concept for people to take and improve on and share it. I think that's really the only. It's not a lockdown organization that's sort of owning anything. It's just me here.
Sharing and doing your best for everyone. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. That was quite a long one, so we'll be quick. Please do take the time to review and share the show if you can. Makes a world of difference. Makes it so much easier for everyone to find it. There's going to be a load of links in the show notes. If you've got any other questions, please do reach out. Until next week, music today was from the Free Music Archive.